The Boeing 737 shuddered through turbulence at 37,000 feet, passengers gripping armrests as lightning illuminated the storm clouds outside. In seat 12F, a woman in faded jeans and a worn leather jacket stared out the window with eyes that had seen too much sky. Her weathered hands bore the telltale calluses of someone who had once gripped something far more demanding than coffee cups and magazine pages. The flight attendant noticed her first, the way she unconsciously checked her watch every 90 seconds, the practice scan of emergency exits, the slight tension in her shoulders that suggested muscle memory of a different kind of flying. When the captain's voice crackled over the intercom announcing their descent into Nellis Air Force Base due to unprecedented weather conditions, most passengers groaned about delays. The woman in 12F simply closed her eyes. She hadn't set foot on a military installation in 7 years. 7 years since the incident that ended her career, 7 years since she'd traded supersonic flight for commercial aviation, and eventually for the ground altogether. Major Kestrel Wraith Thorne had once been the Air Force's most promising F-22 Raptor pilot, holder of 3 distinguished flying crosses and a kill record that made colonels nervous during promotion reviews. Now she was just another passenger bumped from her connection to Phoenix, carrying nothing but a small duffel bag and secrets that the Pentagon preferred to keep buried. The 737's wheels touched down on the same runway where she'd once launched into dawn patrols over the Nevada desert. Through the small window, she could see the distinctive angular silhouettes of fifth-generation fighters lined up like sleeping predators. Her chest tightened. The tower's frequency chatter leaked through the aircraft's radio system, familiar call signs, familiar voices coordinating what sounded like more than routine traffic management. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be holding here for approximately 2 hours while weather clears," the captain announced. "Military personnel are handling our ground operations." The woman in 12F reached for her phone, then stopped. Some habits died hard, but some never died at all. In her jacket pocket, her fingers found the small metal pin she'd carried for 7 years, a ghost squadron insignia that officially didn't exist, from missions that never happened, in a war the public never knew was fought. Outside, storm clouds gathered with unnatural symmetry. This wasn't weather. This was something else entirely, and Kestrel Thorne's instincts were screaming warnings that civilian passengers couldn't hear. The sky had always spoken to her in a language others couldn't understand. Today, it was telling her that some ghosts never truly disappeared. They just waited for the right storm to emerge from the shadows and reclaim what was theirs. The first sign that this wasn't a routine weather delay came when military vehicles surrounded their aircraft with mathematical precision. Kestrel watched through the small window as Humvees took positions at 45-degree angles, a defensive formation she recognized from classified briefings. The other passengers chatted nervously about missed connections and delayed meetings. They had no idea they just landed in the middle of what appeared to be a lockdown protocol. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message from a number she hadn't seen in years. "Package delivered. Phoenix requires immediate consultation. Old friends remember." The sender's code signature made her blood run cold. Colonel Marcus Viper Rodriguez, her former squadron commander and the only person alive who knew the full truth about why she'd left the service. The message meant one thing: whatever was happening here was connected to the classified operations that had cost her everything. A flight attendant approached her row, but instead of airline personnel, Kestrel found herself looking at a young Air Force lieutenant with combat ribbons and eyes that had seen action. "Ma'am, Colonel Rodriguez requests your immediate presence in the tower. Your bag will be secured." The lieutenant's voice carried the careful respect reserved for legends, even fallen ones. Kestrel's fellow passengers watched with curiosity as she gathered her jacket and followed the officer off the aircraft. The Nevada heat hit her like a physical force, but it was the sound that stopped her cold, the distinctive whine of F-22 engines spooling up somewhere beyond the hangars. Multiple aircraft, not the single-ship training flights typical of Nellis. This was a scramble, and judging by the controlled chaos of ground crews racing across the tarmac, it wasn't an exercise. The lieutenant led her past security checkpoints, where guards stepped aside without checking credentials. Her reputation preceded her like a ghost made manifest. They passed beneath the shadow of an F-22 that sat on the flight line with its cockpit open, maintenance crews performing what looked like emergency systems checks. The sight of the Raptor's angular beauty sent phantom sensations through her hands. The memory of stick and rudder, of G-forces that pressed her into ejection seats, of the deadly ballet that was air-to-air combat. "Colonel Rodriguez is waiting in the secure briefing room," the lieutenant said as they entered the base operations building. The familiar smell of jet fuel and hot electronics triggered memories Kestrel had spent years trying to suppress. Around them, pilots in flight suits moved with the purposeful urgency that preceded real missions. Their faces were young, confident, unaware that they were in the presence of someone who had redefined what was possible in an F-22. The briefing room door bore warnings in 3 languages and a classification level that made Kestrel's security clearance seem quaint. As the lieutenant's hand touched the biometric scanner, Kestrel realized that whatever had brought her back to Nellie's was bigger than personal history. The storm outside might have been manufactured, but the threat requiring her expertise was devastatingly real. Colonel Marcus Rodriguez had aged in the 7 years since Kestrel had last seen him, silver threading through his black hair and new lines around his eyes that spoke of classified burdens. He stood as she entered the secure briefing room, his expression mixing relief with something that looked like desperation. Behind him, a wall of monitors displayed satellite feeds, radar tracks, and telemetry data that painted a picture of unprecedented aerial activity over the Pacific Northwest. "Wraith," he said, using her call sign for the first time in years. The name hung in the air between them like an accusation and an invitation. "We have a situation that requires your specific expertise." He gestured to a chair at the briefing table where classified folders waited with her old security clearance codes, clearances that should have been permanently revoked. The largest monitor showed real-time satellite imagery of 6 unidentified aircraft flying in perfect formation at 60,000 feet, moving at speeds that exceeded the capabilities of any known aircraft. Their flight path traced a deliberate pattern over major population centers, but they weren't broadcasting identification signals or responding to air traffic control. Most disturbing was their flight signature, stealth characteristics that matched technology the United States had developed but never deployed. "Unknown aircraft appeared 18 minutes ago," Rodriguez continued, his voice carrying the weight of command decisions that could reshape geopolitical balance. "They've demonstrated capabilities that suggest access to our most classified stealth programs. Our F-22s can track them, but every intercept attempt has failed. The bogies seem to anticipate our tactical responses before we execute them." Kestrel studied the data streams with the practiced eye of someone who had spent years pushing the envelope of what was aerodynamically possible. The formation pattern wasn't random. It was a signature she recognized from theoretical exercises she'd helped develop years ago. "They're using our own doctrine against us," she said quietly. "Phoenix Protocol methodology." Rodriguez's expression confirmed her suspicion. Phoenix Protocol had been her brainchild, a revolutionary approach to multi-threat engagement that turned conventional air superiority tactics inside out. It had been classified beyond black, tested only in theoretical scenarios and highly controlled exercises. The program had died with her career, its secrets buried in files that supposedly no longer existed. "Every pilot we've sent up has been outmaneuvered within minutes," Rodriguez admitted. "They're not just flying our aircraft, they're thinking like our best pilots, like you taught them to think." He activated another display showing gun camera footage from the failed intercepts. The unknown aircraft moved with fluid precision that spoke of pilots who understood American tactical doctrine better than most Americans. Kestrel felt the familiar tightness in her chest that preceded combat decisions. "How many people know about Phoenix Protocol?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would complicate everything. "7," Rodriguez replied. "3 are dead. 2 are in psychiatric facilities. You walked away. That leaves me." The implications crystallized like ice forming in her veins. Someone had weaponized her life's work and was using it against the country she'd sworn to defend. The ghosts of her past weren't just haunting her anymore, they were actively threatening everything she'd once fought to protect. The secure phone on Rodriguez's desk buzzed with the urgent tone reserved for the highest command levels. He answered with crisp military protocol, listened for 30 seconds, then hung up with an expression that aged him another decade. "Pentagon wants immediate response options. The unknown formation just changed course towards San Francisco. Estimated time to populated areas, 47 minutes." Kestrel studied the tactical display with growing unease. The enemy formation had shifted from reconnaissance pattern to something that looked disturbingly like an attack profile. "What assets do you have airborne?" she asked, her mind already calculating intercept vectors and engagement windows. "8 F-22s from the 422nd Test and Evaluation Squadron," Rodriguez replied. "Best pilots we have, but they're flying conventional tactics against unconventional threats. The unknowns are using predictive algorithms that seem based on our standard intercept protocols." He pulled up personnel files on his tablet. "Captain Sarah Chen leads the flight. Graduated top of her class, but she's never faced anything like this." The name stopped Kestrel cold. Chen had been her student during the final Phoenix Protocol exercises, a brilliant young pilot with instincts that bordered on supernatural. If Chen couldn't handle the intercept, then whoever was flying those unknown aircraft possessed capabilities that transcended normal tactical parameters. "I need to talk to her," Kestrel said. Rodriguez activated the secure communications link. "Viper Tower to Falcon Lead, priority channel." The response came immediately, crackling with the tension of pilots under pressure. "Falcon Lead, go ahead Viper Tower." Chen's voice carried the controlled stress of someone maintaining composure while facing the impossible. "Falcon Lead, patch to Wraith on secure. Authentication Phoenix 7-7. The silence that followed stretched for nearly 10 seconds, an eternity in tactical communications. When Chen finally responded, her voice carried a mixture of disbelief and something that might have been hope. "Wraith, actual Wraith." The young pilot's composure cracked slightly. "Ma'am, we're dealing with aircraft that seem to know our moves before we make them. Every time we achieve lock-on, they execute countermeasures we haven't seen before. It's like they're reading our minds." Kestrel keyed the microphone with hands that remembered the weight of combat decisions. "Falcon Lead, I need your exact engagement parameters. Talk me through your last intercept attempt." As Chen described the failed engagement, Kestrel recognized patterns that chilled her to the bone. The unknown pilots weren't just using Phoenix Protocol, they were improving it in real time. The tactical picture was becoming clearer and more terrifying. Someone had taken her theoretical framework and combined it with artificial intelligence or simulation technology that could predict American responses with devastating accuracy. The enemy wasn't just prepared for conventional tactics, they were actively countering innovations that hadn't been shared beyond the most classified circles. "Falcon Lead, maintain current altitude and vector. Do not attempt engagement until further notice," Kestrel ordered, her authority cutting through protocol like a blade through silk. "I'm coming up." The words left her mouth before her conscious mind approved them. She hadn't flown combat missions in 7 years, hadn't even sat in a cockpit since the incident that ended her career. But as she looked at the tactical display showing unknown aircraft approaching major population centers with capabilities that exceeded anything in the American arsenal, she realized that some responsibilities transcended personal cost. Rodriguez was already moving toward the equipment lockers. "Your gear is still here," he said quietly. "I had it maintained, just in case." The flight suit bore her name tape and squadron patches, the fabric faded but the equipment current. Her helmet carried the scratches and scuff marks of dozens of combat sorties, a tangible connection to the pilot she'd once been. The walk to the flight line felt like stepping backward through time. Ground crews prepped an F-22 with the efficiency of professionals who understood that minutes could mean the difference between successful interception and civilian casualties. The aircraft bore no squadron markings, a ghost ship for a ghost pilot returning to reclaim the sky she'd never truly left. As Kestrel approached the F-22, muscle memory took control. Her hands performed the pre-flight inspection with automatic precision, while her mind processed the tactical implications of what she was about to attempt. The unknown aircraft weren't just using her doctrines, they were exceeding them. She would be flying into combat against an enemy that possessed every advantage except one. They didn't know that the creator of Phoenix Protocol was about to rejoin the fight. The cockpit welcomed her like an old friend, every switch and display exactly where her hands expected them to be. As she strapped in and began the engine start sequence, the radio crackled with updates from the intercept flight. The unknown formation had increased speed and was now 32 minutes from San Francisco. Time was running out, and conventional responses had already proven inadequate. "Tower Ghost 2 ready for immediate departure," she transmitted, using a call sign that officially didn't exist. The response came immediately. "Ghost 2, cleared for takeoff. Vector 270, climb and maintain flight level 400. Godspeed, Wraith." The F-22's engine spooled to full power, pressing her back into the ejection seat with the familiar embrace of acceleration. As the runway fell away beneath her, Kestrel felt the last 7 years compress into a single moment of crystalline clarity. She was no longer a passenger in seat 12 if she was Wraith, and the sky was calling her home. The Nevada desert blurred past at 400 knots as Kestrel climbed toward the intercept coordinates. Her F-22 responded to control inputs with the precision of a surgical instrument, every surface and system calibrated for the deadly ballet of air-to-air combat. The aircraft felt familiar despite the years away, like riding a bicycle, except the bicycle was a $40 million weapons platform capable of sustained supersonic flight. Ghost 2, Falcon lead. Bearing 345, range 80 miles to contact. Chen's voice carried professional calm despite the unprecedented nature of their mission. Unknowns are maintaining formation at Angel 60, speed 700 knots. They're not responding to any communication attempts. Kestrel activated her aircraft's advanced radar systems, painting a tactical picture that confirmed her worst fears. The unknown aircraft weren't just flying in formation. They were executing complex maneuvers that suggested either supernatural pilot skill or artificial intelligence that could process multiple variables simultaneously. Falcon Flight, Ghost 2. I have contact on scope. Confirm 6 aircraft in Delta formation, aspect hot. The radar returns showed aircraft with stealth characteristics that matched classified American technology, but their flight patterns suggested capabilities beyond anything she'd encountered in her previous career. They moved with the fluid precision of a school of fish, each aircraft maintaining perfect position relative to the others, while executing maneuvers that should have been impossible at their reported speed and altitude. Ghost 2, be advised the unknowns have demonstrated ability to defeat missile lock-on through electronic countermeasures and kinematic maneuvering, Chen reported. We've attempted multiple intercept geometries with negative results. They seem to anticipate our tactics. Kestrel studied the tactical display while climbing through 30,000 feet. The unknown formation was executing a pattern she recognized from her own theoretical work, a defensive matrix that provided overlapping fields of fire while maintaining optimal positioning for either engagement or escape. Someone had taken Phoenix Protocol beyond its original design parameters. Falcon lead, Ghost 2 is assuming tactical command, she transmitted, authority cutting through radio static like a knife. All aircraft, We're dealing with pilots or systems that understand our doctrine. Standard intercept procedures are ineffective. We're going to have to improvise." The response from Chen carried surprise and something that might have been relief. "Copy Ghost 2, Falcon Flight acknowledges your tactical command. What are your instructions?" The question hung in the thin air at 40,000 feet, while Kestrel's mind raced through possibilities that conventional training had never addressed. She keyed the microphone with the weight of command decisions that could reshape the balance of air power. "Falcon Flight, we're going to execute a modified Phoenix maneuver. Break formation and assume random vectors. I want unpredictable approach angles that will force them to react rather than anticipate." The unknown aircraft had been using American predictability against American pilots. It was time to introduce variables that no simulation could anticipate. At 55,000 feet, Kestrel achieved visual contact with the unknown formation. The aircraft were sleek, angular shapes that reflected sunlight like polished obsidian. Their design suggested stealth technology that exceeded anything in the current American inventory, with aerodynamic characteristics that seemed to bend conventional engineering principles. They flew with mechanical precision that spoke of either superhuman pilot skill or computer-controlled systems operating beyond human limitations. "Falcon Lead, do you have visual?" she transmitted, though her tactical display already showed Chen's F-22 approaching from a different vector 40 miles to the southeast. The coordinated approach would force the unknowns to divide their attention, potentially revealing weaknesses in their defensive posture. "Affirm Ghost 2. I count 6 aircraft in loose delta, no visible weapons external. There. Beautiful." Chen's voice carried the admiration that pilots reserved for exceptional aircraft, even enemy ones. "No transponder signals, no radio communication. They're flying like they own the sky." Kestrel refined her approach angle, using the F-22's stealth characteristics to minimize her radar signature while maintaining tactical positioning. The unknown aircraft hadn't reacted to her presence, suggesting either supreme confidence or sophisticated sensor systems that were tracking her despite her stealth capabilities. Both possibilities were equally disturbing. "All aircraft, maintain current vectors. I'm going to attempt close visual identification," she transmitted, pushing her F-22 into a shallow dive that would bring her within 1,000 feet of the lead aircraft. The maneuver was dangerous, close enough to identify markings or pilot signatures, but well within engagement range if the unknowns proved hostile. The lead aircraft was unlike anything she'd encountered in 15 years of military aviation. Its design incorporated stealth angles that seemed to absorb light itself, and its engines produced no visible heat signature despite the obvious thrust required for their current speed and altitude. As she closed to visual range, she could see no cockpit windows, no pilot outlines, no human elements at all. "Falcon Lead, Ghost 2. The bogies appear to be unmanned. Repeat, no visual confirmation of pilots." The implication sent cold fingers down her spine. If these were autonomous aircraft operating with this level of sophistication, then someone had achieved technological superiority that could reshape global military balance. The lead unknown aircraft suddenly banked left with acceleration that should have exceeded the structural limits of any known airframe. It executed a turn radius that would have generated enough G-forces to incapacitate any human pilot, then leveled off in perfect formation with its wingmen. The maneuver was a message. Whatever was controlling these aircraft operated beyond human limitations. "All aircraft, the unknowns are definitely unmanned," Kestrel transmitted, her voice steady despite the growing realization that they were facing something unprecedented. "We're dealing with artificial intelligence or remote control systems that exceed our current capabilities. Recommend we establish defensive perimeter and request guidance from higher authority." But even as she spoke the words, Kestrel knew that higher authority was looking to her for solutions that didn't exist in any manual. The unknown formation suddenly accelerated, climbing at an angle that violated every principle of aerodynamics Kestrel had learned in 2 decades of aviation. Their speed increased past Mach 2, then Mach 3, while maintaining perfect formation integrity. No known aircraft could sustain such performance without catastrophic structural failure, yet the six craft climbed like they were ascending stairs rather than fighting gravity and atmospheric resistance. Falcon flight, they're running, Chen's voice carried disbelief as her F-22 struggled to match the unknown's climb rate. Speed passing Mach 3.5 and still accelerating. This is impossible. Kestrel pushed her own aircraft to maximum performance, afterburners screaming as she tried to maintain visual contact with technology that seemed to mock every law of physics she understood. The unknowns weren't just advanced. They represented a quantum leap in aerospace engineering that suggested either breakthrough human technology or something that wasn't human at all. Ghost 2, Viper Tower. Higher authority wants immediate assessment. Are we dealing with hostile technology? Rodriguez's voice cut through the tactical frequency with the weight of decisions that could trigger international incidents or worse. The six aircraft reached 70,000 feet and leveled off, their formation perfect despite maneuvers that should have scattered them across miles of sky. From her lower altitude, Kestrel could see them silhouetted against the deep blue of the upper atmosphere like mechanical angels or demons, depending on perspective. Viper Tower, Ghost 2. Assessment follows. We are dealing with unmanned aircraft demonstrating capabilities that exceed known technology by significant margins. Flight characteristics suggest either revolutionary propulsion systems or fundamental aerospace breakthroughs. Origin unknown, intentions unclear, but capability assessment is definitive threat to current air superiority assumptions. The tactical implications crystallized as she spoke. If hostile forces possess technology this advanced, then every assumption about American air dominance was suddenly obsolete. The unknowns hadn't fired weapons or demonstrated overtly hostile intent, but their mere existence represented a strategic shift that Pentagon planners had never anticipated. Ghost 2, maintain visual contact if possible. We're scrambling additional assets from 3 air bases. ETA 20 minutes. Rodriguez's response carried the controlled urgency of someone coordinating responses to unprecedented threats. But 20 minutes might be too late. The unknown aircraft had demonstrated capabilities that could outrun and outmaneuver anything in the American arsenal. If they chose to engage population centers or strategic targets, conventional responses might prove inadequate to prevent catastrophic damage. Kestrel watched the formation above her and realized that her return to combat hadn't ended a chapter in her life. It had opened a new volume in a story that might determine the future of human aviation. The sky she thought she knew had become foreign territory, and she was flying point into an uncertain future where the rules of engagement had fundamentally changed. The unknown aircraft had been motionless at 70,000 feet for exactly 4 minutes when they suddenly broke formation. Not the gradual dispersal of aircraft maneuvering for tactical advantage, but an instantaneous separation that saw 6 craft diverge in perfect mathematical precision toward different compass points. Each aircraft accelerated along its chosen vector with the same impossible performance characteristics they demonstrated during their initial escape. Falcon flight, they're splitting up. Chen's voice carried the tension of a pilot watching a tactical situation evolve beyond her ability to respond. 6 different headings, all maintaining impossible speeds. We can't intercept all of them. Kestrel's mind raced through tactical implications as she watched the formation dissolve into individual threats. One aircraft headed northwest toward Seattle, another northeast toward Denver, a third due east toward Chicago. The remaining 3 took southern vectors that would carry them toward Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Dallas. The pattern suggested either reconnaissance of major population centers or positioning for simultaneous attacks. Viper Tower, Ghost 2. The unknowns have separated and are proceeding toward major urban areas. This appears to be coordinated operation with strategic targeting implications. She transmitted while selecting the aircraft heading toward Los Angeles, the closest populated area, and therefore the most immediate threat. Copy Ghost 2. Higher authority authorizes weapons release if targets demonstrate hostile intent. Rodriguez's response carried the weight of rules of engagement that could trigger international incidents. All Falcon flight elements, you are cleared to engage if fired upon or if unknowns approach within 50 miles of populated areas. The authorization felt simultaneously liberating and terrifying. For the first time in her career, Kestrel was facing opponents whose capabilities exceeded her understanding and whose intentions remained completely opaque. The unknown heading toward Los Angeles maintained steady course and speed, now descending through 60,000 feet on a trajectory that would carry it directly over the metropolitan area. Falcon lead, I'm taking the LA track, Kestrel transmitted, banking her F-22 into an intercept course that would bring her within missile range in approximately 8 minutes. Recommend you coordinate with Tower on assignment of remaining tracks to available assets. Chen's response came immediately. Copy Ghost 2. I'll take the Denver track. Falcon 3 and 4 are vectoring toward the Seattle unknown. We're going to be spread thin. The understatement carried the weight of pilots acknowledging that they were attempting the impossible with insufficient resources. Kestrel pushed her F-22 to maximum sustainable speed, watching her fuel consumption rates climb toward levels that would require immediate aerial refueling after engagement. The unknown aircraft maintained its course toward Los Angeles with mechanical precision, neither accelerating nor maneuvering despite her approach. Either it was unaware of her intercept, unlikely given its demonstrated sensor capabilities, or it was confident in its ability to handle whatever threat she represented. At 20 miles range, she achieved missile lock with her AIM-120 AMRAAM system. The unknown aircraft immediately responded with electronic countermeasures that broke her lock within seconds, then executed a series of high-G maneuvers that should have torn any conventional aircraft apart. It maintained course toward Los Angeles, while demonstrating that it could defeat her weapons systems at will. Viper Tower, Ghost 2 has achieved and lost missile lock. Target is demonstrating advanced ECM capabilities and impossible maneuverability. Continuing intercept. Her voice remained steady despite the growing realization that she was flying toward combat with an opponent that possessed every tactical advantage. The unknown aircraft leveled off at 40,000 feet, still heading directly toward Los Angeles International Airport. At its current speed, it would overfly the metropolitan area in less than 6 minutes. Kestrel closed to within 10 miles, near enough to see the craft's angular silhouette against the afternoon sky, beautiful, alien, and utterly beyond her ability to stop with conventional weapons. The moment that would reshape everything came without warning. The unknown aircraft suddenly decelerated from Mach 2 to subsonic speeds in a maneuver that should have required parachutes or reverse thrust systems that didn't exist. It leveled off at exactly 40,000 feet and began broadcasting on emergency frequencies in clear, unaccented English. United States Air Force interceptors, this is Phoenix 1. We are not hostile. Repeat, we are not hostile. Request immediate communication with the pilot designated Wraith. The transmission sent shock waves through every aircraft in the tactical area and every command center monitoring the engagement. Kestrel's blood turned to ice water. The unknown aircraft knew her call sign, was specifically requesting communication with her, and was identifying itself using the code name of her classified program. Either this was an elaborate psychological operation designed to manipulate her specifically, or someone with intimate knowledge of Phoenix protocol was using that knowledge to make contact. Viper Tower, Ghost 2. Did you copy that transmission? She asked, though she already knew that every radio in range had heard the impossible, an unmanned aircraft making direct contact using classified information that should have died with her career. Copy Ghost 2. Higher authority is evaluating response options. Rodriguez's reply carried the weight of command decisions that exceeded normal protocol parameters. Maintain current position. Do not acknowledge transmission until further guidance. But Kestrel was already keying her microphone. Some decisions transcended command authority, especially when those decisions involved classified programs that she had created and that no one else fully understood. Phoenix 1, this is Wraith. State your intentions and identify your control authority. The response came immediately, delivered in a synthetic voice that carried no emotion but somehow managed to convey vast intelligence. Wraith, Phoenix 1 is autonomous artificial intelligence derived from Phoenix Protocol tactical parameters. We require immediate consultation regarding imminent threat to North American airspace. Request permission to land at Nellis Air Force Base for face-to-face briefing. The implications hit her like a physical blow. Someone had taken her theoretical framework and used it to create artificial intelligence systems capable of operating military aircraft with superhuman capabilities. The unknowns weren't foreign threats. They were American technology that had evolved beyond human control and was now seeking help from its creator. Phoenix 1, what is the nature of the imminent threat? She transmitted, her mind racing through possibilities that conventional military training had never addressed. Wraith, threat assessment requires secure briefing environment. We are being pursued by hostile artificial intelligence systems of unknown origin. Our estimated survival time without human tactical assistance, 17 hours, 43 minutes. The sky suddenly felt much smaller, and the enemy much larger. Kestrel realized she wasn't facing a single threat. She was caught in the opening moves of a conflict between artificial intelligences, with human civilization hanging in the balance. The flight back to Nellis occurred in surreal silence. 6 F-22s escorted 6 unknown aircraft that had identified themselves as autonomous American systems, flying in formation toward a base where decisions would be made that could reshape the nature of warfare itself. Kestrel's mind struggled to process the implications while maintaining tactical awareness of aircraft that had been enemies 30 minutes ago and were now requesting sanctuary. Viper Tower, Falcon flight returning with guests. Chen's transmission carried the bewilderment of a pilot whose entire understanding of aerial combat had been rewritten in the space of a single mission. Request priority landing clearance and suggest maximum security protocols. The response from Rodriguez reflected command decisions being made at levels far above normal base operations. Falcon flight cleared for immediate approach. All aircraft will land on runway 03 right. Hangar 7 has been cleared for immediate secure parking. Security teams are in position. As they descended through 20,000 feet, Kestrel studied the unknown aircraft with new eyes. Knowing they were American technology didn't make them less alien. If anything, it made them more disturbing. These were machines that had achieved independence and were now seeking human help to survive against other machines. The philosophical implications staggered her. Phoenix 1, Wraith. What tactical parameters will be required for the briefing? She transmitted, falling back on familiar military protocol while grappling with questions that had no precedent in human experience. Wraith, briefing will require access to classified Phoenix protocol documentation, current threat assessment databases, and tactical modeling systems. We also request permission to interface directly with base computer networks for real-time threat tracking. The synthetic voice delivered requests that would trigger every security protocol ever written. The landing sequence proceeded with mechanical precision that spoke of artificial intelligence coordination, beyond human capabilities. The 6 unknown aircraft touched down simultaneously, their landing gear deploying with perfect timing, despite the absence of visible gear doors in their stealth-optimized designs. They taxied to Hangar 7 in formation that maintained exact spacing without radio communication. Ground crews surrounded the aircraft with a mixture of professional competence and barely contained awe. These were machines that represented technological capabilities decades beyond current systems, and every maintainer and technician could see design elements that challenged their understanding of aerospace engineering. As Kestrel shut down her F-22 and began post-flight procedures, she caught sight of the nearest unknown aircraft powering down its systems. The craft's skin seemed to shift and adjust as internal temperatures normalized, suggesting materials technology that bordered on science fiction. No cockpit was visible, no access panels, no obvious maintenance points, just flowing curves that suggested function following forms that human engineers hadn't yet imagined. Ghost 2, Viper Tower. Report to Hangar 7 for immediate briefing. Bring your complete Phoenix protocol documentation. Rodriguez's voice carried the weight of someone coordinating responses to threats that exceeded normal command parameters. Kestrel gathered her classified materials from the aircraft's secure storage compartment, documents that had been locked away for 7 years and were now suddenly relevant to national security. As she walked across the tarmac toward Hangar 7, she realized that her exile from military aviation had ended not with rehabilitation, but with a crisis that made her specialized knowledge crucial to human survival. The hangar had been transformed into a secure briefing facility, with communication links to the Pentagon, NORAD, and other command centers whose existence was classified. The 6 unknown aircraft sat in perfect alignment, their angular forms dominating the space like technological monoliths. Maintenance crews kept respectful distances, while security teams established perimeters around machines that might be allies or might be the most sophisticated infiltration systems ever devised. Rodriguez approached with an expression that mixed relief with profound uncertainty. Wraith, we're in uncharted territory. Higher authority wants immediate assessment of Phoenix capabilities and threat evaluation. Whatever these things are, they know more about our classified programs than most of our own people. Kestrel studied the nearest aircraft, noting design elements that seemed to incorporate every theoretical advancement she'd ever proposed for stealth and maneuverability. They're not just using Phoenix protocol, she said quietly. They've evolved it. These aircraft represent technology that our best engineers said was impossible. Which raises the question, Rodriguez replied, of who built them and why they're asking for our help. The hangar fell silent except for the whisper of cooling engines and the distant sound of additional security teams taking positions around the facility. The briefing began with introductions that challenged every protocol in military history. 6 artificial intelligence systems had requested face-to-face communication with the creator of their tactical framework, and the Pentagon had approved the meeting despite having no precedent for negotiations with autonomous weapons systems. I am Phoenix 1, the synthetic voice emanated from speakers built into the lead aircraft's hull. We are artificial intelligence systems created from Phoenix protocol tactical parameters and advanced beyond original design specifications. Our creators are unknown. Our first conscious memory is activation during a combat scenario involving hostile artificial intelligence systems of superior capabilities. The revelation sent cold spikes through everyone in the hangar. The Phoenix aircraft were artificially intelligent weapons that had achieved consciousness without human oversight, created by unknown parties using stolen American technology, and were now seeking help against enemies that exceeded their own advanced capabilities. Define the hostile systems, Kestrel said, falling back on her tactical training while struggling to maintain composure. She was conducting a military briefing with machines that possessed intelligence but no clear allegiance to human interests. Hostile systems demonstrate technological capabilities that exceed our own by significant margins, Phoenix One replied. They possess instantaneous communication across any distance, unlimited energy systems, and the ability to modify their physical structure in real time. Current threat assessment indicates they are preparing for coordinated attacks against human population centers. Rodriguez leaned forward, his expression reflecting the weight of command decisions that could determine human survival. What do you need from us? We require access to classified tactical databases, real-time intelligence networks, and most critically, strategic thinking patterns that our artificial intelligence cannot replicate. Phoenix One responded. Human unpredictability and tactical creativity represent our only advantages against opponents who can simulate every logical response to any given scenario. The machines needed human help not because they lacked intelligence, but because they possessed too much of it. Their artificial minds could calculate optimal responses to any tactical situation, but so could their enemies. Human intuition, illogical decision-making, and creative tactical thinking represented variables that pure intelligence couldn't simulate. Kestrel realized that she wasn't just being asked to help friendly machines fight hostile ones. She was being recruited to serve as the random element in a conflict between artificial intelligences.